Yeah, so what do you do about forward head posture as a tech neck thing?
I mean, I think it's more complex than just tech neck, for example. Um, there's a forward flexion of most people's necks and spines just by nature of what we're doing all the time. We're always looking down on our phone or our computers or always very forward focused energy. We don't have a lot of extension in our lives. So our body gets really good at whatever we're doing. And so if we're spending time in flexion, your body's going to get really good at being in flexion. But over time, that causes problems because it's shortening the fascia, it's shortening the ligaments, it's shortening like even like the organ structures that are in the front, which then pulls the neck and everything forward. So oftentimes I'm actually correcting people's necks by addressing the fascia that surrounds the lungs and the fascia that separates the lungs from the heart, called the mediasteinum. And if we release the tension in the mediastinum, then oftentimes that creates space for them to lift their head up. So I really think that like part of the reason why people have this forward head flexion is airflow. Because like if you are naturally in a flex state, if you like right now, if you like bring your head forward and kind of let that open, you have like a lot of room to breathe there. But then if you bring it back while keeping your chest forward, it's like harder to breathe. It's like you can't access as much breath. You can't access as much oxygen. So your body's always going to prioritize how much oxygen you can get, which then keeps your head forward even when you're out of that flexed position. So then your chest can be open, but your head stays forward. So oftentimes, like I'm releasing those ligaments to give the room for the airway to be able to actually breathe more, so they have access to oxygen. And oftentimes, like a few months, and people's quote unquote like reverse cervical curve is fixed because it wasn't actually the spine itself. It was all of the things that were attached to the spine that were pulling it into that position to be able to maximize how much you can breathe.
I love it. What a good example of it's all models. Like, people will go around saying that the root cause of forward head posture is like your spine moves, but really 50 things happen all at once when you put your head
and
forward.
your spine is
and like
important
which
too.
one of them
Like,
are causal and which one of them can you intervene in that are the most helpful?
Right, and it always depends on the person. Like in one person I might be releasing their mediastinum, in another person I might be releasing their ALL, in another person it might be like the
anterior longitudinal ligament?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
In other people it might be like the actual joints of the spine, or it might be like a shortening in a nerve somewhere that's pulling on their neck in a particular position. So like there isn't a one size fits all in any of this. It's very much like you have to feel the person in front of you. And like, speaking for myself, like I feel the person in front of me. I feel what particular tissues are under tension, and I find out why they're under tension and allow them to soften and kind of retune to be a more appropriate tone to be able to be in more concert with everything else. And oftentimes in doing that, the problem, quote unquote, goes away, even if we're not necessarily directly addressing it where you think you need to. Like there's a chiropractic model that has a lot of research behind it called chiropractic biophysics, or CBP. And their whole model is like stretching out the ligaments on the front. And so they like put you in these contraptions that like pulling your head back, or like have you lie on a cervical pillow and like stay there for 30-ish minutes a day, or like doing this like 4 or 5 times a week. And it gets results, but I think at the end of the day, like what they're not necessarily looking at is all of the organs, all of the fascia beyond just the spinal ligaments that they're addressing. And so if we address those first as our focus, then oftentimes we can get results much faster than they can.
Totally.
But I don't have any data to prove that yet. Maybe I will eventually. But like when I was taking that class, I was like, I feel like you're missing everything that's in front
Absolutely.
of the spine itself. That said, CBP is like one of the most effective on paper, and also I know from people, ways of like changing people's cervical curves.
Right. I mean, on paper, right, you'll only find what you're looking for. It like really takes some skill to find something that's not what you're looking for.
Right, and most chiropractors are coming from a model of completely musculoskeletal. So they're like, oh yeah, you have lungs in there, but they're not going to be focusing on it.